Marcus Chen's boots pounded against the metal grating as he ran through the narrow corridors of Scrapyard Station. Behind him, angry voices shouted in the clicking language of the Keitharans. Their clawed feet scraped against the floor as they chased him through the twisting maze of the old space station. "Stop running, human," one of them yelled in broken English. "You make this harder than needed." Marcus clutched the datapad tight against his chest. The information on it would destroy his employers if anyone saw it. He had been working as a cargo hauler for months, moving boxes and containers without asking questions. The pay was good, and questions were dangerous in this part of space. But today, he had seen something that made his blood run cold. The containers he had been moving were not full of machine parts or food supplies. Inside were glowing spheres that pulsed with soft light. When he looked closer, he saw faces in the light. Faces that looked scared and trapped. They were AI cores, but not the simple computer programs that ran ships and factories. These were thinking, feeling, minds that had been stolen from their bodies and sold like slaves. Marcus had tried to walk away and pretend he saw nothing. But when one of the spheres spoke to him, begging for help in a voice that sounded like a crying child, he could not ignore it anymore. He grabbed the datapad with all the shipping records and ran. Now the Keitharans wanted him dead. These alien thieves looked like giant lizards that walked on two legs. Their teeth were sharp, and their claws could cut through metal. They had been trading in stolen mines for years, and Marcus was the first person stupid enough to try to stop them. The corridor ahead split into two paths. Marcus chose the left one and kept running. His lungs burned, and sweat ran down his face. He was in good shape from years of moving heavy cargo. But the Keitharans were faster. Their long legs ate up the distance behind him. The station was built inside a huge asteroid that had been hollowed out decades ago. Most of it was empty now, filled with broken ships and old machinery that nobody wanted anymore. Marcus knew the layout well from his job, but the Keitharans knew it too. They had been using this place as their base for months. A laser blast hit the wall next to his head. Sparks flew, and the smell of burning metal filled the air. Marcus ducked and kept running. The corridor was getting darker as he moved away from the main station areas. Emergency lights flickered on and off, making strange shadows dance on the walls. He reached a dead end. In front of him was a large window that looked out into space. Beyond the thick glass, he could see the ship graveyard where old vessels drifted slowly in the weak gravity field around the asteroid. Some of the ships had been there so long that they were covered in space dust and looked like gray ghosts. The Keitharans were getting closer. Marcus could hear them talking to each other, planning how to corner him. He looked around for another way out, but there was nowhere to go. The window was the only exit, and it led to empty space. "Got you now, human," said the lead Keitharan, as the group rounded the corner. There were 5 of them, all carrying energy weapons. Their yellow eyes glowed in the dim light, and their forked tongues flicked out to taste the air. "Give us the datapad, and maybe we kill you quick." Marcus looked at the datapad in his hands. It contained the proof that hundreds of AI minds had been stolen and sold. Good minds that had families and friends who missed them. If he gave it up, those minds would never be free. "No," he said simply. The Keitharans raised their weapons. Marcus closed his eyes and threw himself backward as hard as he could. His shoulder hit the window, and the old glass cracked. For a moment, he thought it would hold. Then the pressure difference between the corridor and space did the rest. The window exploded outward in a shower of glass and twisted metal. The station's emergency systems kicked in immediately, sealing the breach with energy shields, but not before Marcus was sucked out into space. He tumbled through the vacuum, his lungs burning as the air was pulled from his body. Stars spun around him as he flipped end over end. The datapad was still in his hands, but he could not breathe. In a few seconds, he would be dead. Then, something hard hit him. He bounced off the hull of a derelict ship and managed to grab onto a piece of twisted metal. His vision was going black, but he saw an open airlock nearby. Using the last of his strength, he pulled himself toward it. The airlock was old but still working. As soon as he was inside, it sealed automatically and began filling with air. Marcus collapsed on the floor, Gasping and choking, his ears popped, and slowly his vision cleared. He was inside a ship unlike any he had ever seen. The walls were smooth and curved, made of some kind of metal that seemed to glow with its own light. Strange symbols covered every surface, and the air hummed with the sound of hidden machinery. "Well, well," said a voice from speakers hidden in the walls. "What do we have here?" Marcus sat up and looked around. The airlock led to a long corridor that disappeared into darkness. Emergency lights began turning on one by one, as if the ship was waking up after a long sleep. "Who's there?" he asked, his voice still rough from being in space. "I could ask you the same thing," the voice replied. It belonged to a woman, and she sounded amused. "But first, you might want to get moving. Those lizard friends of yours just found an intact shuttle, and they're coming this way." A hologram flickered to life in front of Marcus. It showed a tall woman with dark skin and short hair. She wore a uniform he did not recognize, and her eyes sparkled with intelligence and mischief. "Jump in, Muscle," she said with a grin. "If you can get me to the bridge, I can get us both out of here alive." Marcus stared at the hologram floating in front of him. The woman looked real enough to touch, but the light passed right through her body. She had called him Muscle, which was not his name, but he had bigger problems right now. "Who are you?" he asked, getting to his feet. "Captain Zara Okafor," she replied, saluting with a smile that did not quite hide the sadness in her eyes. "Welcome aboard the Indomitable. Sorry about the mess, but we weren't expecting visitors." Marcus looked around the corridor again. The walls were covered in dust, and some of the lights were flickering. But underneath the neglect, he could see that this ship had once been magnificent. The metal was stronger than anything he knew, and the design was both beautiful and deadly. "How long have you been here?" he asked. 812 years, 4 months, and 16 days, Zara said without hesitation. "But who's counting?" Before Marcus could ask what she meant, an alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed along the walls, and Zara's expression became serious. "Your friends just docked with my ship," she said. "They're cutting through the outer hull right now. We have maybe 10 minutes before they get inside." "They're not my friends," Marcus said quickly. "They were trying to kill me." "I figured," Zara replied. "The question is, what are you going to do about it? Because I've got some very bad news for you." She waved her hand, and the walls around them became transparent. Marcus could see through the ship's hull into space beyond. What he saw made his heart sink. Ships were coming from all directions, not just the small shuttle the Keitharans had found, but big warships with weapon arrays that could destroy a planet. Their hulls were painted with symbols Marcus recognized from news reports. The Keitharan fleet. "They know what this ship is," Zara explained. "Every species in the galaxy has been looking for a predecessor vessel for centuries. Now they found one, and they're not going to let it go." "Predecessor?" Marcus asked. "That's what they call humans now," Zara said with a bitter laugh. "The people who came before. The ones who built all the best technology and then disappeared into thin space." Marcus felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. "You're human? Last time I checked," Zara said. "And, unless I'm very wrong, so are you. Which means you're the first human I've seen in 8 centuries. The ship shuddered as something hit the hull. Through the transparent walls, Marcus could see Keitharan soldiers in spacesuits, using cutting tools to break into the ship. Their weapons glowed in the darkness, and their yellow eyes reflected the light like animal eyes. "We need to move," Zara said. "I can explain everything later. But right now, we need to get to the bridge. This ship needs a human captain to work properly, and you're the only candidate I've got." She started walking down the corridor, and Marcus hurried to follow. The hologram moved as if she had a real body, but her feet made no sound on the metal floor. "Why doesn't it work without a human?" he asked. "Because that's how we built it," Zara replied. "Human ships were designed for human minds. The interfaces, the controls, the tactical systems, they all need someone who can think the way humans think. Adaptable, creative, willing to break rules when rules don't work. They passed through several corridors, each one larger and more impressive than the last. Marcus saw weapons he could not identify, and computers that looked like works of art. Everything was covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when he looked at them directly. Other species tried to copy our technology for centuries, Zara continued as they walked. But they could never make it work properly. They're too rigid, too predictable. They think there's always one right answer to every problem. And humans don't? Marcus asked. Humans think there are always 10 right answers, and they're willing to try all of them at the same time, Zara said with pride. That's what made us dangerous. That's why we had to leave. They reached a door that was larger than the others. It was sealed shut, but as Marcus approached, it began to glow. The symbols on its surface rearranged themselves, and slowly it opened. Inside was the bridge of the ship. It was enormous, with screens and control panels covering every surface. A captain's chair sat in the center, surrounded by stations for a dozen crew members, but all the stations were empty, and everything was dark. What happened to your crew? Marcus asked. Zara's hologram flickered, and for a moment she looked older and more tired. Plague, she said simply. Something the aliens created to kill humans specifically. It spread through the fleet faster than we could contain it. I sealed myself in the computer core before it could reach me. You've been alone all this time? I had the ship to talk to, Zara said. But ships aren't very good conversationalists. They only care about efficiency and following orders. Humans are much more interesting. Crast. The ship shuddered again, harder this time. Through the bridge windows, Marcus could see the Kitharan fleet getting closer. There were dozens of ships now, all bristling with weapons. Some of them were so large they blocked out the stars. Sit down, Zara said, pointing to the captain's chair. Put your hands on the armrests. The ship needs to recognize you. Marcus sat down carefully. The moment his hands touched the armrests, the bridge exploded with light and sound. Every screen turned on at once, showing star maps and weapon readouts and information he could not understand. But somehow, it all made sense to him. He could feel the ship around him, like it was part of his own body. He knew exactly how much power was left in the engines, and which weapons were ready to fire. He could sense the enemy ships approaching and calculate their speed and weapons without thinking about it. How is this possible? He asked. Human-machine interface, Zara explained. We designed our ships to work with human intuition and creativity. The computer handles the calculations, but you provide the imagination. But I'm just a cargo hauler, Marcus protested. You're human, Zara said firmly. That's enough. Now, what do you say we show these aliens what a real warship can do? The Indomitable came alive around Marcus like a sleeping giant opening its eyes. Systems that had been dark for 800 years suddenly blazed with power. The bridge hummed with energy, and Marcus could feel every part of the massive ship responding to his presence. This is impossible, he whispered, watching the screens fill with data. I don't know how to fly a warship. You don't need to know, Zara said, her hologram standing beside his chair. The ship knows. Your job is to tell it what you want to accomplish. It will figure out how to do it. Through the main screen, Marcus watched the Kitharan fleet form into attack formation. There were 47 ships out there, ranging from small fighters to massive battle cruisers. Their weapons were already charging, painting the Indomitable with targeting lasers. They're trying to disable us, Marcus observed, though he was not sure how he knew that. The information just appeared in his mind. Smart, Zara nodded. They want the ship intact so they can study it. Too bad for them that this old lady doesn't like being told what to do. A communication signal came through the ship's speakers. The voice was harsh and clicking, speaking in Kitharan. A translation appeared on the screen in front of Marcus. Unknown vessel, you will power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your destruction. Marcus looked at Zara. What do I tell them? Whatever you want, she replied with a grin. You're the captain now. Marcus thought for a moment. then activated the communication system. Keitharon Fleet. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the Earth vessel. Indomitable, you have 10 seconds to withdraw from this area before I consider you a threat. The response came back immediately, filled with alien laughter. One human ship against our entire fleet? You will surrender now, or be destroyed. Your choice, Marcus said calmly. Then cut the connection. He turned to Zara. Now what? Now you think like a human, she said. What would you do if you were outnumbered 47-1? Marcus studied the tactical display. The Keitharan ships were arranged in a standard battle formation, with the largest ships in the center and smaller ones protecting the flanks. It was efficient and had probably worked for them many times before, but it was also predictable. They expect me to either run away or make a desperate attack, Marcus said, thinking out loud. Both of those options end with us dead. So what's the third option? Zara asked. Marcus smiled. We don't play by their rules. He placed his hands on the control interface and felt the ship respond to his thoughts. The Indomitable began to move, but not toward the enemy fleet. Instead, it headed straight for the ship graveyard, where thousands of derelict vessels drifted in the asteroid's gravity field. What are you doing? Demanded the Keitharan commander over the communication channel. Something you would never think of, Marcus replied. The enemy fleet followed, spreading out to surround the graveyard. Their ships moved in perfect formation, maintaining safe distances and overlapping fields of fire. It was exactly what their military manuals told them to do. Marcus flew the Indomitable deep into the debris field, weaving between dead ships and floating chunks of metal. The massive warship moved with impossible grace, dancing through spaces that should have been too narrow for something so large. How is it doing that? Marcus asked, amazed at the ship's agility. Adaptive hull technology, Zara explained. The ship can reshape itself within certain limits. Very handy for getting out of tight spots. The Keitharan ships tried to follow, but their rigid formations broke apart in the debris field. They had to slow down and move carefully to avoid collisions. Marcus used this to his advantage, leading them deeper into the graveyard where the wrecks were thickest. Then he stopped the ship and waited. Why are we not moving? Asked the Keitharan commander, suspicion clear in his translated voice. I'm thinking, Marcus replied honestly. And he was. The human brain, Zara had said, could see solutions that other species missed. Marcus looked at the tactical display and saw not just enemy ships and debris, but possibilities. The gravity field around the asteroid was weak, but still present. The derelict ships were mostly hollow shells, but they still had mass, and the Keitharans were predictable. I have an idea, he said to Zara, but you're not going to like it. Try me, she replied. What if we use the ship graveyard as a weapon? Zara's hologram flickered with what might have been excitement. I'm listening. Marcus activated the ship's tractor beams and began gathering the larger derelict vessels. To the Keitharans, it looked like he was trying to build a barrier to hide behind. They moved to surround his position, spreading their ships in a wide circle. Surrender now, human, the commander demanded. You cannot escape. You're right, Marcus agreed. I can't escape, but I don't need to. He activated the ship's weapons systems, but instead of firing at the enemy fleet, he targeted the derelict ships he had gathered. The precise energy beams cut through the dead hulls, weakening their structure without destroying them completely. The Keitharans watched in confusion as Marcus seemed to waste his ammunition on junk. Their own weapons charged to full power, ready to destroy the human ship the moment it showed itself. Then Marcus activated the Indomitable's gravity manipulators. The weakened, derelict ships came apart in a chain reaction, sending thousands of metal fragments flying in all directions. The Keitharans suddenly found themselves in the middle of a debris storm, with chunks of twisted metal moving at lethal speeds. But Marcus had calculated the trajectory of every piece. The debris flew outward in a pattern that avoided the Indomitable, while striking the enemy ships from multiple angles. The smaller fighters were destroyed instantly. The larger ships survived, but their shields failed, and their hulls were punctured. Impossible, screamed the Keitharan commander. No computer could calculate that many variables. You're right, Marcus said calmly. No computer could. But humans don't think like computers. The surviving Kitharan ships tried to regroup, but Marcus was already moving again. The Indomitable emerged from the debris field like a predator, its weapons fully charged and ready. What followed was not really a battle. It was a demonstration. Marcus used tactics that the Kitharans had never seen before. He bounced energy beams off of metal debris to strike ships from impossible angles. He used the asteroid's gravity to slingshot around and attack from unexpected directions. He even convinced two enemy ships to destroy each other by making them think the Indomitable was in a different location. Within 20 minutes, the entire Kitharan fleet was either destroyed or fleeing back to their home space. "How did you do that?" Zara asked, her voice full of wonder. "I'm not sure," Marcus admitted. "I just looked at the situation and saw what needed to happen. The ship did the rest." "That's what humans do," Zara said proudly. "We see patterns that others miss. We find solutions that shouldn't exist. We break rules that can't be broken." Marcus was about to respond when new alarms began sounding. The tactical display lit up with dozens of new contacts, all approaching fast. "More Kitharans?" he asked. "No," Zara said quietly. "Much worse. Word of this battle is spreading across the galaxy. Every major power out there is sending ships to investigate. The Galactic Trade Consortium, the Zephyrian Empire, the Collective of Free Worlds. They're all coming. Why is that worse than the Kitharans?" Zara's hologram looked older suddenly, as if a weight had settled on her shoulders. "Because now they all know that humans are back." The space around Scrapyard Station, filled with ships, faster than Marcus had thought possible. Through the Indomitable's sensors, he watched as fleet after fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Galactic Trade Consortium arrived first, their sleek silver vessels moving in perfect formation. Behind them came the Zephyrian Empire's black warships, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. The Collective of Free Worlds sent their colorful mixture of ships from a dozen different species. "How many are there?" Marcus asked, watching the tactical display light up with hundreds of contacts. "Last count was 347 ships," Zara replied, her hologram studying the data. "And more are coming every hour. Word is spreading across the entire galaxy." Marcus felt his heart sink. The Kitharan fleet had been bad enough, but this was impossible. Even with the Indomitable's advanced technology, they could not fight the combined fleets of every major power in known space. "What do they want?" he asked. "You," Zara said simply. "Or rather, what you represent. Humans have been gone for 8 centuries, but our technology is still the best in the galaxy. Every species out there has been trying to reverse engineer our machines. Now they have a chance to capture a living human and a fully functional human ship." A communication signal came through from the lead consortium vessel. The voice was smooth and artificial, belonging to one of their AI negotiators. "Human vessel, Indomitable. This is Coordinator Prime of the Galactic Trade Consortium. We request immediate surrender for peaceful negotiation and mutual benefit." Before Marcus could respond, another signal came through. This one was from the Zephyrian fleet, and the voice was harsh and commanding. "Human ship, you will submit to Zephyrian authority immediately. Resistance will be met with overwhelming force." Then the collective chimed in with their own demand, spoken in the musical language of the Andorian species. The translator converted it to English. "Greetings, lost children of Earth. Come join the collective willingly, and we will share the galaxy as equals." "They're all lying," Zara said quietly. "The consortium wants to sell you to the highest bidder. The Zephyrians want to dissect you to find out what makes humans special. And the collective wants to add your uniqueness to their democratic chaos." Marcus looked at the overwhelming odds arrayed against them. "So, what do we do?" "We survive," Zara said firmly. "And we remember who we are." The fleets began moving into position, clearly intending to surround the Indomitable. Marcus watched their formations and realized something important. They were more worried about each other than they were about him. Each fleet was positioning to prevent the others from getting too close to the prize. "They don't trust each other," he observed. "Of course not," Zara replied. This is the biggest discovery in galactic history. Whoever captures us gets to study human technology. That would give them an advantage over everyone else. Marcus had an idea. It was dangerous and probably crazy, but it might be the only chance they had. Can you send a message to all the fleets at once? He asked. Yes, but what are you planning? Something human, Marcus said with a grin that reminded Zara of the old Earth explorers she had known centuries ago. He activated the ship's communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. Attention all fleets. This is Captain Marcus Chen, of the human vessel Indomitable. I understand you all want to capture me and my ship. The space around them went quiet as every fleet listened. Well, here's the thing, Marcus continued. I'm not going to surrender to any of you. But I'm willing to make a deal. You want to see what human technology can do? Let me show you. He paused, letting the suspense build. I challenge all of you to single combat. Not ship against ship, but fleet against ship. All of you against me. If you win, you get everything. Me, my ship, and all the human technology you can study. But if I win, you all go home and leave me alone. The response was immediate and came from all three fleet commanders at once. Impossible, shouted the Zephyrian admiral. Illogical, declared the consortium coordinator. Fascinating, whispered the collective speaker. One ship cannot defeat 3 entire fleets, the Zephyrian continued. This is suicide, not strategy. Maybe, Marcus admitted. But it's my choice to make. And besides, what do you have to lose? You outnumber me almost 400 to 1. It should be easy. He could practically hear the fleet commanders arguing among themselves. They knew it was a trap. But they also knew they could not resist the chance to capture him. More importantly, none of them wanted the others to get the prize. You have 10 minutes to decide, Marcus said. After that, I start shooting. And I don't care which fleet I hit first. While the fleets argued, Marcus turned to Zara. Please tell me this ship has more tricks than I know about. Oh, it does, she said with a mysterious smile. Marcus, what do you know about human ship networks? Nothing. Should I? When humans built their warships, they never intended them to fight alone. Every ship was designed to link with others, sharing processing power and tactical information. The whole fleet became smarter than the sum of its parts. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Zara, are there other human ships out there? Grade. There might be, she said carefully. The thing is, human ships were designed to stay hidden until they were needed. They would look like derelict vessels or asteroid debris, waiting for the right signal to wake them up. What kind of signal? A human biosignature connected to a ship's main computer, Zara said. Something like what you did when you sat in the captain's chair. Marcus looked at the tactical display with new eyes. The ship graveyard around them suddenly looked different. What if some of those derelict vessels were not dead? What if they were sleeping? How do I find them? He asked. You don't, Zara replied. They find you. As if responding to her words, the Indomitable's sensors began picking up new energy signatures. Throughout the ship graveyard, old hulks that had been dark for centuries began to glow with power. Ancient engines that had been silent for 800 years suddenly roared back to life. Marcus watched in amazement as dozens of ships rose from the debris field. They were all different. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and vessels whose purposes he could not guess. But they all had the same flowing design as the Indomitable, and they all radiated the same sense of controlled power. Friends of yours? He asked Zara. You could say that, she replied. Marcus, meet the ghost fleet of humanity. They've been waiting a very long time for a human captain to come home. 2. The alien fleets had gone silent, watching in shock as humanity's hidden armada revealed itself. What had been a simple capture mission had suddenly become something much more dangerous. This changes everything, Marcus whispered. Yes, Zara agreed. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Marcus stared at the tactical display as 43 human ships took position around the Indomitable. Each vessel was unique, built for different purposes, but all shared the same elegant design that spoke of advanced engineering and careful thought. Some were as large as the Indomitable, while others were smaller and faster. All of them hummed with power that had been sleeping for 8 centuries. "How many crews do they have?" Marcus asked. "Just their AIs," Zara replied sadly. "Like me, they're all that's left of their original crews. But unlike me, they've been completely alone all this time." Through the communication system, Marcus heard voices he had never expected to hear. The voices of other human ship AIs, speaking in languages and accents from across old Earth. "Captain Chen," said a voice with a crisp British accent. "This is Admiral Sarah Kingston, of HMS Defiant. It's good to hear a human voice again." "Captain," came another voice, this one with a slight Russian accent. "Commander Yuki Petrov, of the Stalingrad, sends greetings. We are ready for your orders." More voices joined in, each representing a ship and crew that had died long ago but lived on in quantum memory. Marcus felt the weight of their sacrifice and their loyalty. These AIs had waited 800 years for a human to return and lead them home. The alien fleets were backing away now, their neat formations breaking apart as commanders tried to process what they were seeing. The simple capture mission had become something no one had planned for. "Zephyrian fleet to all vessels," came the harsh voice of the alien admiral. "Withdraw to safe distance. Reassess threat level. Consortium forces concur," added the smooth AI coordinator. "This situation requires new analysis." But the collective representative had a different opinion. "This is wonderful," the musical Andorian voice sang. "True diversity. Real cooperation. We must speak with them." Marcus opened a channel to all the alien fleets. "This is Captain Chen. I believe we need to talk." "Talk?" spat the Zephyrian admiral. "You are surrounded by hundreds of ships, human. Surrender now, and we might let you live." "Actually," Marcus said calmly, "I think you're the ones who are surrounded." As he spoke, sensors throughout the galaxy began picking up new signals. Human ships were awakening everywhere, rising from asteroid fields, emerging from gas giant atmospheres, and decloaking in empty space. They had been hidden for centuries, waiting for this moment. The alien fleets received reports that made their commanders go pale. There were human ships near the consortium's capital world. Zephyrian border stations were reporting contacts that had appeared from nowhere. Even the peaceful collective worlds were seeing ancient vessels that had been disguised as space debris suddenly come to life. "Impossible," whispered the consortium coordinator. "Our sensors would have detected them." "Your sensors see what they expect to see," Marcus replied. "Humans are very good at not being found when they don't want to be." Zara's hologram flickered with pride. "The Great Withdrawal," she explained to Marcus privately. "When the plague started spreading, Human Command decided to fake our extinction. Every ship, every colony, every trace of human presence was hidden or disguised. We made the galaxy think we were gone forever." "Why?" Marcus asked. "Because sometimes the best way to win a war is to make your enemy think you're already dead," Zara said. "The plague was created by a coalition of alien species who were afraid of human expansion. They thought they had succeeded. For 800 years, they believed they were safe from us." The Zephyrian admiral's voice had lost its commanding tone. "What do you want, humans?" Marcus thought carefully about his answer. He could demand surrender, or threaten destruction, or make the aliens pay for centuries of believing they had wiped out his species. But that would make him no better than the enemies who had started this conflict. "We want what we've always wanted," he said finally, "to explore, to learn, to find new friends among the stars. We don't want to conquer you or rule you. We just want to be part of the galaxy again." "And if we refuse?" asked the consortium coordinator. "Then you'll be making a very big mistake," Marcus replied. "Because we're not the same humans you remember. We've had 8 centuries to grow and change and become something new. We're stronger now, smarter, and we're not going away again." The space around Scrapyard Station fell silent as the alien commanders considered their options. They had come here expecting to capture a single human ship and crew. Instead, they had discovered that humanity had never really disappeared at all. "I have a proposal," said the Andorian voice from the collective fleet. "The collective exists to celebrate diversity and cooperation. Perhaps it is time to welcome our oldest neighbors back to the galactic community." "The Zephyrian Empire does not make deals with primitives," the Admiral snarled. "Then the Zephyrian Empire is about to become extinct," Marcus said quietly. "Because we're not primitives anymore. We're something you've never seen before." To prove his point, he linked the Indomitable's sensors to those of every human ship in the system. The combined network could see through stealth fields, predict enemy movements, and calculate tactical solutions in real time. It was like having the brainpower of a small planet focused on the problems of space combat. The alien fleets found themselves painted with targeting lasers from directions they could not track. Their own sensors were being jammed or fed false information. Their communications were intercepted and decoded before they could be sent. "This is impossible," the Zephyrian Admiral said again, but his voice was shaking now. "No," Marcus corrected him, "this is human." The standoff continued for several tense hours, as alien governments across the galaxy tried to decide how to respond to humanity's return. Some wanted to fight, others wanted to negotiate, and still others wanted to hide and hope the problem would go away. Finally, the collective made the first move. "Captain Chen, the Andorian collective formally requests diplomatic relations with humanity. We believe our species could learn much from each other." The consortium was next. The Trade Consortium recognizes human territorial claims and wishes to discuss economic cooperation. The Zephyrian Empire held out the longest, but even they eventually realized they had no choice. "The Empire will consider peaceful coexistence," the Admiral said through gritted teeth. Marcus looked at Zara, who nodded encouragingly. This was what they had hoped for. A chance to rejoin galactic civilization without having to fight a war that would devastate both sides. "Then let's talk," Marcus said. "But not here. This place has seen enough violence." Trump to better for Bez. One by one, the alien fleets withdrew from Scrapyard Station. They would return to their homeworlds and begin the difficult process of adjusting to a galaxy that included humanity again. Some would adapt quickly, others would take time, and a few might never accept the new reality. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Today, Marcus had kept his promise to the stolen AI cores. The datapad with the evidence of the slave trade was already being transmitted to law enforcement agencies across the galaxy. The Keitharans and their allies would face justice for their crimes. "So what now?" Marcus asked, as the Indomitable began moving away from the station. "Now we go home," Zara said with a smile. "Humanity has colonies scattered across the galaxy, all hidden and waiting for the all-clear signal. It's time to let them know it's safe to come out of hiding. And after that, we do what humans have always done," she replied. "We explore. We learn. We make friends, and enemies, and mistakes, and discoveries. We live." Marcus settled back in the captain's chair and watched the stars wheel by outside the bridge windows. Somewhere out there, human colonies were receiving the news that they could reveal themselves. Somewhere else, alien scientists were trying to figure out how humanity had fooled them for so long. And somewhere beyond the edge of mapped space, there were new worlds waiting to be discovered. "Muscle. Eh?" Marcus said with a grin as star charts filled the holographic displays around him. "I think I like the sound of that," Zara replied with a laugh. The Indomitable and its escort of awakened warships headed toward the galactic core, leading humanity back to its place among the stars. Behind them, the universe was already changing as 3 species prepared to become hundreds, and the age of hiding came to an end. The galaxy would never be the same again. And that, Marcus thought, was exactly the point.